Leftists hate to hear this, but there aren't as many of them as they think. It's why the Democrats don't cater to them. They'd love to have them in the coalition, but that means leftists need to work with classic liberals and centrists. Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I'm well aware that my politics are on the fringe and that establishment Democrats are never going to cater to what I want. And even like most progressive Democrats are not going to cater to everything that I want. I do think a lot of us on the left, and especially the folks in the off left, they think that they are a far larger contingent than they are. They think they are far more powerful and influential than they are. They think that they should be catered to, pandered to the exclusion of all of the centrist normies and the Democrats, right? Like, take up my position, even though it will alienate the majority of the Democratic Party. They give themselves far more power than they actually have. And it's really interesting to me how many people claim to be leftists and value community and they want working class solidarity, but they fail to understand that the majority of the working class is very centrist. Like, you say you want working class solidarity, but what you want is to exclude everybody whose politics are not exactly like yours, people who don't have the same, authoritarian communist utopian vision that you have, then they don't matter. There's this lack of understanding of how to build a coalition with people who have diverse ideas, how to build a coalition with people who are not aligned with you in every factor and are not going to come around to your way of thinking. And also, like, a really devastating failure to understand what your obligation is as a voter. I know I talked about it in this video. But pretending that someone has to earn your vote, that they have to pander to you, they have to cater to you, they have to court you and romance you in order to get you to vote for them. And that if they don't make every single thing on their platform align specifically with you, you're going to say, fuck you and all of the people who are going to be harmed if the opposition gets elected. I'm going to sit on my self-righteous high horse and say, well, I didn't compromise my values in any way, shape, or form. My hands are clean because I didn't vote for the candidate who wasn't perfect, even though it costs millions of lives, even though it puts the most vulnerable at risk, even though it escalates the harm being done to the vulnerable communities that they say they are advocating for. To me, it's really weird to see people saying that they are communists, but then displaying this tremendous toxic individualism. To see people saying, if you don't court me as a voter, if you don't give me exactly what I want and make me feel pure and righteous in casting my vote, then I will withhold my vote and allow a terrible, cruel, chaotic authoritarian to come to power. And even in the face of now living in that reality, they still continue to blame the Black woman for not being progressive enough for them, which is weird because a lot of them had no problem voting for Joe Biden or Barack Obama. Nobody cared that Obama was arming Israel. It's just the Black woman that they call Bomala. How they clearly don't understand the role of the president versus the vice president and the limitations of the vice president who crafts foreign policy, how Congress controls the purse strings. No. They don't want to talk about that. They just want to call a Black woman Bomala and feel really self-righteous, ranting and raving about how they're going to withhold their vote from her until she gives them everything that they want. Weird how they made these very specific demands of a Black woman and not of previous Democratic presidential candidates. But getting back to this point here, I think it's really easy when you're in your little insular Twitter bubble, cranking out your tanky think pieces, or you're in your carefully curated social media spaces where everybody thinks like you. It's easy to get this perception that your group is far more larger and influential and should be pandered to in a way that just like doesn't match with actual reality. You have a very skewed perspective. And I've even said that because my social media feed leans very left. Sometimes I find it hard to remember that we are not the majority of Americans and that we're not even like a particularly substantial and influential minority when you look at what Americans consider the left versus right. I mean, we all know establishment Democrats, they are really on the right. We don't really have a left-wing party in America at all. And then if you look at the off-left folks, they're just like this little tiny sliver. And they think because they bluster really loudly online that they should be listened to, that they should be granted more power and sway than they actually have. I do think it's good for everybody on the left to have a little reality check, a little radical acceptance about where we fit into the political ecosystem, how we can use what power we do have, how we can leverage what influence we actually do have, and how we can get over ourselves a little bit and think about coalition building. I definitely think a lot of folks on the left have not deconstructed from the toxic individualism that is rampant in American society, that is the foundation of American society. This give me every single thing that I want, or I will withhold from you my vote. You have to earn my vote. You have to court me. You have to romance me. That is toxic individualism. That's prioritizing your feelings above the communal good, and yet you say that you're a communist. That's prioritizing your wants, your agenda above harm reduction and what is actually feasible and doable within our society right now. That is rejecting incremental progress so that you don't have to compromise yourself and your wants in any way, shape, or form. That absolutely is toxic individualism. And instead, we could be doing coalition building. We could be working toward incremental progress. We could be partnering with people who are different than us and maybe have a different version of what they think American society should look like, but we can be aligned on multiple issues. But pretending like the entire Democratic Party has to swing very far left, or else you're going to withhold your vote, you're not that important. And the party knows that you're not that important. The party knows that you over here may have a big online presence, but you aren't a substantial portion of the voter bloc. And also catering to what you want specifically will alienate all of these folks over here. And you've shown how fickle you are and how unlikely it is that you will show up to vote at all. So I guess I just don't understand what folks think they are doing when they say, I will withhold my vote. I will hold my vote hostage. I will refuse to participate in the process until you give me exactly what I want. Like, your demands are not going to be met, sweetheart. You can sit over there and feel real moral and pure, but you're not having any ability to influence what's happening. I know you think that stepping out and doing nothing is influencing what's going on, but you're choosing to remove yourself from the table when you could have had a seat at it. You would have had a compromise, but you could have a seat at the table. I don't know. I know people in my comments are saying things like, you're not progressive, you're a lib, you're not a leftist, because they don't like seeing somebody who's on the left being willing to compromise, focusing on harm reduction, because that's not what they're used to seeing in their little insular online spaces. But in the real world, most of us leftists understand that we have to do compromise voting all of the time. And we understand what it is to be interacting in our communities, interacting with the political process, interacting in a society that is not exactly how we would like it to be. We understand that we want to contribute where we can, and that we're not waiting to be catered to try to do good where we live. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wayne, for saying this. I completely agree with you. Leftists are not as influential as we think. And again, leftism is like a very broad definition with all kinds of different folks with different perspectives and beliefs under that umbrella. So whatever your little particular brand of leftism and your particular ideals and platforms are, you're just this little tiny wedge. Doesn't mean that you can't do good things. It doesn't mean that you can't have influence, right? As a permaculturist, small solutions, any little contribution can be meaningful and important. Regular, ordinary people can do big things, and we all have meaningful contributions to add as we work towards solutions. But we need to understand realistically where we fit into the system, how much power and influence we do have, and use it, rather than living in a fantasy where we think that giant, big, powerful structures should do exactly as we want, abandon the majority of their voter base, piss off the majority of their voter base in order to cater to us specifically. So yeah, I think if we're really on the left and we really value community means diversity. It means that if you actually want to work toward making the entire society better, you're going to have to work with people who are different than you, because the majority of people in society are going to be different from you, are going to have different values from you, are not going to be politically 100% aligned with you. So is it really communism that you're after? Is it really solidarity of the working class that you're after? Is it really everybody working together for the common good that you're after? Is it really prioritizing the good of society over your own personal whims? Are you really embracing communism or socialism over toxic individualism? Because there's a chunk of folks on here, online again. In real life, folks are very, very different. It's just these online folks who have an outsized voice and think they are more important than they are because the algorithm puts their content forward. Are you really about the things that you say you're for? What does that look like in the real world, not in the Twitter sphere?